Commercial diving is easily one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Imagine yourself 1,000 feet deep in the North Atlantic Ocean. Your air and warmth are supplied by a bundle of hoses and cords known as the umbilical. It's your lifeline, constantly providing everything you need to survive at these extreme depths. It's the one and only thing keeping you alive down here. But for Bradley Westell, the umbilical that was intended to provide life support instead brought him death. Bradley Westell was born in 1965 in the United Kingdom. He grew up in a close-knit family that valued hard work. His fascination with the sea began at a young age. Family vacations to the coast sparked his interest in the ocean, and he was captivated by stories of sailors and explorers who braved the unknown depths. It would be this early connection to the water that would later play a significant role in his choice of career. After finishing his basic education, Bradley pursued vocational training, focusing on skills that would later prove valuable in his career as a diver. He had a keen interest in mechanics and engineering, understanding the importance of machinery and tools in various industries. This technical inclination led him to work in several hands-on jobs during his late teens and early 20s. Bradley's transition into commercial diving was a gradual but deliberate process. He began by taking recreational diving courses, where he quickly advanced through the levels. His instructors noted his dedication and aptitude, recognizing that he had the potential to pursue diving as a career. Bradley's early career as a commercial diver was marked by a series of challenging but rewarding assignments. He worked on various offshore projects, including underwater inspections, maintenance, and construction. His reputation as a reliable and skilled diver grew. Despite the inherent dangers of the job, Bradley found fulfillment in the work he did, though he was completely aware of the risks and took safety very seriously, always adhering to the protocols and best practices he had learned during his training. A few weeks before the incident, Bradley Westell had been working on various assignments, demonstrating his usual professionalism and skill. Then, one day, he received a phone call that would set the course for his final dive. The call came from a project manager overseeing operations on the Stena Aurelia, a well-known diving support vessel working in the North Sea. They were in need of an experienced diver for an upcoming job, one that required precision, expertise, and a calm presence underwater. Bradley's reputation had made its way through the tight-knit community of commercial divers, and the project manager knew he would be the perfect fit for the task at hand. As Bradley listened, the details of the job were outlined. It was a routine maintenance dive that would include repairing or removing fibre optic cables on the seabed, 60 miles off the Norfolk coast, something he had done many times before. The job itself didn't sound particularly daunting, but it was clear that the client needed someone that they could trust to get it done right. The conversation was professional but friendly. Bradley had worked with this project manager before, and so there was a mutual respect between them. After a brief discussion about logistics and timing, Bradley agreed to take on the job. He was scheduled to head out to the Stena Aurelia within the week. After hanging up the phone, Bradley took a moment to reflect on the assignment. He felt confident in his abilities, knowing he had the experience to handle whatever challenges might arise. Little did he know that this seemingly routine call would end in a horrifying nightmare. A few days later, Bradley arrived at the heliport, the first step in his journey to the Stena Aurelia. The offshore vessel was stationed in the North Sea, and the quickest way to reach it was by helicopter. As the chopper lifted off the ground, Bradley gazed out of the window. He had taken this route many times before, but the view of the vast ocean below never failed to captivate him. After a short flight, the Stena Aurelia came into view, a massive structure floating in the middle of the sea. The vessel was equipped with state-of-the-art technology, including thrusters to maintain its position and a full diving support system. Bradley was familiar with the layout and operations of such ships, having worked on similar vessels throughout his career. The helicopter touched down on the deck of the Stena Aurelia, and Bradley was greeted by the crew. He exchanged pleasantries with old acquaintances and introduced himself to new faces. The atmosphere on board was professional but relaxed. These were seasoned workers, and for most of them, this was just another day on the job. After a quick briefing, the dive would begin, and Bradley suited up in his gear. The weight of the helmet, the constriction of the suit, and the bundle of hoses and cables making up his umbilical were all familiar sensations. This was his world, beneath the surface, where light and sound were muted, and the only connection to life above was through the lifeline of his umbilical. Bradley entered the diving bell, a secure chamber that would transport him to the depths of the North Sea. The bell was lowered from the Stena Aurelia, descending into the cold, dark waters. As the bell gently touched down at the designated depth, Bradley exited the bell, ready to begin his work. He moved methodically, communicating with the surface team as he went, and the job was progressing well, with no immediate issues. But as he worked, the ship's thrusters, which helped maintain the vessel's position, began to shift. Without warning, the powerful thrusters of the Stena Aurelia had engaged, and the forceful current created by them caught Bradley's umbilical. Before anyone could react, the umbilical, designed to be his lifeline, became a deadly tether. The thrusters pulled the umbilical with terrifying speed, dragging Bradley off the seabed and straight towards the ship's propeller. In the dive control room, Kenneth Roberts, the diving supervisor, barked orders, trying to maintain control over a situation that was quickly spiraling out of hand. His voice, normally steady and calm, now carried an edge of panic. He knew the protocols, the procedures, the safety measures that were supposed to prevent this very scenario, yet here they were, staring down a nightmare. As Bradley was yanked upward by his umbilical, caught in the thruster's force, he was pulled straight into the propeller and was partially decapitated by the spinning blades. A horrifying end to what should have been a routine dive. The thruster was finally disengaged, but the silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the sickening realization of the tragedy that had just occurred. The crew was devastated. For some, the blame was immediately directed at the thrusters, those powerful, necessary tools that had turned deadly. Others began to question the decisions made in the moments leading up to the dive. The weight of responsibility began to settle heavily on Kenneth Roberts, the man in charge, who was now grappling with the knowledge that something had gone terribly wrong under his watch. In the days that followed, the questions grew louder, and so did the accusations. Investigators were brought in to piece together what had happened, and fingers began to point in all directions. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Roberts' decisions during those critical moments were under intense scrutiny. The findings revealed a series of missteps, lapses in judgment, and a tragic chain of events that culminated in Bradley's death. It was determined that Roberts had failed to follow proper safety protocols, and that his actions or inactions had directly contributed to the fatal accident. Roberts, knowing the gravity of the situation, made attempts to cover up the full extent of what had occurred. He took elaborate steps to cover his ground by going to the black box system of the ship. On that video would have been the spoken words and instructions given by Roberts, but Robert put the videotape into a recorder and wiped out the part covering the crucial time when he had been instructing Mr. Westell to go out beyond the safe limit of his umbilical to help recover cables. His efforts to pervert the course of justice only added to the tragedy. When the truth came out, it led to his conviction and a 1-year prison sentence. For the rest of the crew, life aboard the Stena Aurelia was never the same. The camaraderie they once shared was now shadowed by an unspoken grief, a collective sorrow for the loss of one of their own. Some tried to carry on with their duties, while others found it difficult to shake the images of that day from their minds. The sight of the thrusters, once seen as just another part of the vessel, now served as a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked in their line of work. In the end, the tragedy of Bradley Westell's death left a lasting mark on everyone involved. The lessons learned were hard learned, paid for with a life that should have been safeguarded. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I'd really love to reach 1k. But, until the next true disaster, it's goodbye from me.